My name is Jacob Carter, and I'll be doing a quick tutorial on how to create a recycler view in an Android environment using Android Studio. Now, the first step to be able to make your recycler view work is look into your Gradle and look into Build Gradle app. Now, it's really important that you add to your dependencies here something that will allow you to use a recycler view. In my case, it's version 7. Version doesn't necessarily matter, but what does matter is if you don't add to the dependencies here in the Gradle, you will not be able to use anything with the recycler view. Now, with that said, the recycler view has a lot of pieces to it. We're going to look first at the pieces that we need to add to our XML to make it work. If we look at the XML for either a fragment or activity, in our case it's a fragment, we'll need to add code that looks like this in order to make a recycler view appear. These lines I pretty much just copy-pasted. I just looked online for the particular version of recycler view I was using, and this is the XML code needed. So if I plop this here into my fragment, it allows it to display. Now, I also need to create whatever template I want each of the items inside of my recycler view to look like. In my case right here, I'm making a simple chat log. So I created a new XML right here called chat message. And my chat message, the only thing it has in it is a text view. And this is because each of the components or pieces in my recycler view only need to show a single text view. So that's pretty easy. But if you want it to be more complex, you could add as many things here to this particular template, and that's how each of those items in your recycler view would display. Now, with that said, we're going to take a look at what it takes to create the next portion of code needed for the recycler view, which is creating your own adapter class. Now, for this project, I've already got one started, so over here in my adapters folder, I have what I called the chat adapter. Now, I'm going to go ahead and delete all of this just so we can start from scratch. It'll make a little more sense. So I created my public class, I named it chat adapter, and I had it extend a recycler view .adapter. Now this next part may seem a little confusing at first, but it's very important. The adapter has inside of it chat adapter dot chat message view holder. Now the way that these work, the adapters, is they have view holders inside of them. In our case, we're going to create our own type of view holder called a chat message view holder. And we're going to have it be an inner class of the adapter, since the adapter is the only thing that's going to be using this particular view holder. So, if we go ahead and hover over this, we can do implement methods, and because it extends recycler view.adapter, it'll have these three methods that have to be implemented, and these are the only three that you'll really need to make the adapter work. So now that we have those, you can see we still have an error here because we haven't created our inner class chat message view holder. Now, just to reiterate, these view holders or inner classes here, you can name it anything you wanted. Since my view holders are going to be containing a chat message, that's why I named it chat message view holder. So right here, we're going to go ahead and type out, let's see here, public static class chat message view holder. And we're going to have it extend recycler view.view holder. Alright, then we're going to go ahead and create the constructor for this. Now this part is really important as well. So chat message view holder. In our constructor, we need to pass into it a view. And we're going to go ahead and say super view. So we're going to call the super constructor for this. And Oh, that's why I spelled wrong. Okay, perfect. So now we have our inner class, which is going to be our chat message view holder. On the outside of the inner class, we have our 3 adapter functions. All right, now in order to make all this work, we're going to focus first on the inner class, our chat message view holder. Now in the constructor here, we're going to add all the code that we need in order to wire up this particular view holder or slot in our recycler view with the corresponding XML template that we made. In this case, it's going to be pretty easy because all we have to wire up is this single text view. So we'll go back to our chat adapter. We're going to go ahead and give it some private variables. We'll give it a text view. We're going to call it message. And then right here, we're going to say message equals and what did we name it? Chat message. Right there, add that in. Alright, now we have our wired up text view for the XML corresponding to this particular view holder. Now, if you had other elements in your XML, here you would wire up all of them. Now we're going to go ahead and add another function here. This one we're going to call bind chat message. And what we want to pass into this particular one is just a string, which is going to be our chat message. Okay. Now the way that this is going to work is this is what's going to do the data binding for our particular view holder. It's where we're going to attach, in this case, an actual string to the view that's going to be displayed in our recycler view. Now in any other case, you could be passing in a different object here, anything you want, and this is where you would set all the different elements in your XML to be what they need to be. In our case, it's going to be pretty simple. We're going to go ahead and give this particular view holder a chat message variable. We'll go ahead and throw it up here. And we'll say this dot chat message equals chat message. And then we're going to go ahead and set our text view message to be equal to that. And now our inner class here is completely finished. It's that simple. On the constructor, we're going to go ahead and wire up any elements in our XML template. And then on our bind message, or on our bind here, we're going to take in the object, set anything in that object that we need to display in the XML to be equal to a variable within the class, for example, chat message, and then we go ahead and set our different XML elements to be the correct values. Now, before we're done with the adapter, we now need to take a look at these other functions out here that are being overridden to make the adapter work correctly. So, the first one we're going to look at is count. This one is pretty simple. So I guess really what we need to start with is this particular adapter is going to need to have inside of it some kind of a list that represents all the different objects being displayed by the recycler view. In our case, it'll be pretty easy. It's just going to be an array list of strings. So we'll go ahead and make a private array list of strings, and we're going to make this called messages. Now we need to go to where we're going to be initializing these messages. We're going to create a constructor for our adapter. And we're going to say this dot messages equals messages. Alright, now we have our constructor for our chat adapter. We're going to go ahead and come down here. For the get item count, all we're going to do is return messages.size. Okay, one of them's done. Pretty easy. Now we're going to take a look at the next one. We're going to look at onBind view holder. Okay, so onBind view holder, here's what we're going to need to do. We need to make a new view. Whoops, we were putting this in the wrong spot. This actually needs to go up into here. On the return, on the on create view holder. So we're going to create our new view, and then immediately we're going to inflate it. We're going to inflate it with the XML template that we determined will represent each of the elements in our recycler view. And then we're going to return it. Or at least a new instance of one of our inner classes here. Alright, that one's done. Now we just got to take a look at this one, the bind. And this one's pretty easy too. We're going to say that our string chat message equals our adapter, and then we're going to go ahead and get it at the particular position that was passed in, and then we're going to say bind chat message, and we're going to pass in this particular chat message. Okay, now we're done with the adapter. So quick overview, we have our inner class, which is the view holder. It has inside of it a constructor that takes a particular view and goes ahead and wires up all the different XML elements that are part of that template. And then it has a bind function, which is going to take the passed in object and set it equal to the inner variables of this class, and then go ahead and set your XML values to what they need to be. Now the adapter itself has its constructor where you're going to pass in some type of list or container that holds all of the objects. And then on the three functions that are overridden here, we're going to have our getItemCount, which just returns the size of your container. We're going to have our onCreateViewHolder, where you're just going to create a new view that's going to inflate whatever particular XML layout you have for the different pieces inside your recycler view. And then you're going to return a new instance of one of the viewHolder inner classes, passing into it the inflated view you just created. Then the final function is this bind. All we're going to do is create a new chat message or create a new object that is simply from our list of objects inside of the adapter, grabbing from the position that's passed in from this function. And then we're going to go ahead and say holder, which is also passed in, dot, and we're going to call our inner classes bind function and pass into it whatever object that we need to. So now we have the adapter working, we have the XML all ready to go. The last thing we'll need to do is look into our fragment, or if you're using an activity inside of the activity, and add just a handful of lines of code in order to tie it all together. So if we look into our onCreateView function call, we're going to come into here, and actually first on the outside we're going to add some private variables. We're going to need a private recycler view, call it chat message recycler view. We're going to need a private linear layout manager. And we're also going to need one of the new adapters that we just made. So chat adapter. Okay, so we have our three different variables that we're going to need. Now we're going to come down into the onCreateView. We're going to go ahead and wire up a recycler view. Now we're going to go ahead and set up our linear layout manager. And then we're going to go ahead and set up our adapter. Actually, no, first we need to set up our recycler view layout manager. So we're going to say